Let me tell you something most people don't realize until it's far too late. HR does not exist to help you. You think they're there to support employees, resolve workplace issues, and create a good work environment? Wrong. Flat out wrong. HR is there for one reason, and that's to protect the company from you. If you have got a problem, their job is to make it go away quietly. If you get fired unfairly, their job is to cover for management. If you think they'll advocate for you, you're playing checkers while they're playing 3D chess. And the worst part, most HR employees are some of the dumbest people in the company. They don't know the law, they don't understand the business, and they sure as hell don't care about you. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why HR is useless and how they screw over employees, and most importantly, how to protect yourself from their nonsense. So let's get into it. So most people believe HR is there to help employees with workplace issues, resolve conflicts fairly, and support career growth and company culture. No. This is completely false. What HR is really there for is just to protect the company from lawsuits. They're simply cheap frontline legal team. They have much lower salaries than lawyers, but they provide that frontline support before they have to bring in the big guns for something like a harassment claim or when things get escalated that they're not able to sweep under the rug. So they just want to prevent you from escalating those issues to real lawyers. They act as a buffer between employees and executives, keeping leadership insulated from workplace problems. And their goal is to delay, defect, and document until you either shut up or quit. And HR attracts some of the least competent people in the corporate world. They tend to be non-technical, clueless about real business operations. Most of them are women who want an easy office job where they can scroll Instagram all day. You have these roles like HR generalist. What is that? If you don't have a specific function like payroll, or you're not actualizing a process, you shouldn't even have a job in a corporation. But they love busy work, useless training modules, wellness sessions, pointless performance reviews, and bureaucratic nonsense. And have you ever spoken to HR and thought, how is this person employed? Because I know I do quite a bit, or I did in the past when I was in the corporate world, and you're definitely not alone. And I just want to share a few stories about HR in my experience, because they were really tough situations. I didn't handle them like I would today, and I got a lot of great lessons out of them, and I want to impart those lessons onto you. So the first one was about an employee that I managed who had terrible body odor. So HR brought this to my attention because this employee worked in a different part of the office than me, didn't really detect it myself, but there was a complaint. And they told me, yeah, you need to really talk to this employee because their body odor is disrupting the workplace. And they coached me and told me how I should approach it. And that was their solution, was telling me to handle it. That sounds to me like an HR issue. So I went with it, and it ended up being one of the worst conversations I've had. It was so awkward. And on top of that, the person that complained was outraged because it ended up being a situation where there was greater division between the two people, and the person's body odor even became worse. So what I learned is that you only do what your job requires when it comes to HR demanding or requesting you do something. Never let HR offload their uncomfortable tasks onto you. In that case, I would tell them now, if I were in that situation again, that's not something I'm comfortable with. I'm glad we have very competent HR resources like yourselves. Let me know how it goes. And the second one was about a situation where I lost vacation days because of a stupid system that was not able to make changes after 30 days. So there was a process where I had to submit any changes to the vacation days that I took, and there were some in the system erroneously, but in that small time frame, it actually had to be changed by an HR administrator, which they failed to do. So I lost a week's worth of vacation days. And, that was one of those things that when I brought it up, they had no interest in helping me. They just directed me to the policy. So I did my due diligence. I looked at the laws in my particular jurisdiction, and I found out it was a totally illegal practice what they were doing. So I spent a few hours putting together a well-crafted, detailed, but succinct email explaining why they would be contravening the law if they don't actualize my request to give me back those vacation days. The minute you start listing laws and it's obvious that you're well read and well educated on the law and you are willing to stand up for yourself, it's amazing how HR suddenly can start springing into action and doing the thing that they were supposed to do from the beginning. They won't always. You might have to take another route. Hopefully, you just don't get into a situation that deep where you need to look for external help, like a legal resource, a lawyer. There can be commissions that you can report things to. But ultimately, if you show that you have knowledge, HR gets scared. Keep that in mind. And the third one is where I was dealing with two very toxic employees. They were ruining the team morale. They were fairly competent at what they did, but they had huge character issues. And I think one of them definitely had a personality issue. And I couldn't get rid of them. HR refused to let me terminate. They would find all these technicalities about recording and making sure that we had multiple incidents that I could prove 100%. They put me in a situation where there was no way I was going to have the evidence they required to let them go. They said to me, document a process first, deal with them, like have a chat, find out what their needs are, tell them what you expect. And ultimately, in the private sector, you can fire someone whenever you want. But they were blocking me because they didn't want to take on that responsibility of the last mile of that firing. So in this case, it's a lot trickier to deal with. So what I recommend is always have an exit plan from an organization. If you're dealing with a company where HR won't let you fix your team, be ready to leave, have the financial resources like an emergency fund for 6 to 12 months in a high interest bank account, and get out. One other thing I want to touch upon is how HR gaslights. So HR is trained to gaslight employees into compliance. So they will say things that sound like it is the law, that like it is the truth. And that's just not true. As I said in one of my examples earlier, that companies break the law all the time, either willingly or they're just ignorant about it and incompetent. So don't take their word as gospel. When they say it's just company policy, to me, that means we made this up and you can't question it. Or if they're saying we're looking into it, they mean we'll ignore this until you drop it. They will use all sorts of tactics to make the problem go away. Or that's not how we do things here at this company. They're basically telling you to shut up and deal with it. So you have to really make sure that you have your facts straight, that you have a very strong, robust argument when you're challenging HR, and you want to make sure you get everything in writing. BCC your personal email, take screenshots where necessary. So then if you're in a situation where it escalates beyond just talking to HR, that you have your ammunition ready to show that it's not your problem, it's their problem. And in terms of actually engaging HR, like I only see 3 reasons to talk to them. So it's documenting something serious that you must talk to them about, like discrimination or illegal activity. If you have another job lined up and you need to give your notice, that's another reason. That's more of a formality for offboarding. And then anytime you need to protect yourself legally, right? So if you're in a situation where you feel that you're vulnerable at work for whatever reason, maybe you're dealing someone that's giving accusations against you to HR, make sure that you're proactive in defending yourself. And I also always suggest consulting an employment lawyer before going to HR with anything when it comes to protecting yourself legally. Otherwise, just avoid HR like the plague. But, when it comes down to it, HR is inevitable. You got to plan accordingly. It's not going anywhere. It's going to stay. But you can always avoid them where it's possible. And you can document everything and you can know your rights. Those are all within your control, right? HR is counting on you being uninformed. They want to twist the narrative and they want to make sure that they are in a position where they look like the authority. And it doesn't need to be that way. Make sure you do these things and you can make sure that HR doesn't become an impediment to your career. So As a reminder, they're not your friend. They're the company's defense lawyers in disguise, so play the game accordingly. And I'll talk to you soon.